Hello, good morning, Gary Champion, Psychic Medium. I was thinking this morning about how our country has gone back to political and nationalistic forms of the 40s. Two big ones back then, of course, democracy, but you had fascism, my favorite, and Nazism. Really, there's no difference. You can look at them, they're the same. They just like the sound of the other one, sounded the way it sounded. And I started comparing political parties to fascism. Why would I do that? I'm not political. It just occurred to me it might be neat to find some things out that I don't know. And believe me, I don't know much. So, what has the Republican Party got in common with fascism? Number one is authoritarianism. We tell you what to do, you do it. There's no, and you see that going on within their party. Even if a member wants to vote for something else, he won't do it for fear of being ostracized and shouted down in meetings and really made politically irrelevant by the Republican Party. They'll campaign against them being reelected. So keep in line, do what we tell you to do, and you'll be all right. Authoritarianism, nationalism. You got the Proud Boys. That's Republican stuff, basically, and Donald Trump involved in all that. But it's not just nationalism. It's not hooray for the United States. It's racial nationalism. We're white. We're white power. Keeping the white power vote. Interesting. And not, fascists were also believed in the hierarchy of command, things like that. Well, that's exactly what we've got here. And elitism. I'm better than you. These are not good things for fascism. And the leader of the fascist movement, Benito Mussolini, they hung him by his heels and shot him in the head. So didn't work out too well for him. And the fascists oppose any individual rights and equality. Individual rights. Well, let's see. 182 Republicans voted against the ERA. The ERA is a dead thing. I don't know why, but equal rights amendment really means giving women equal rights. Why are we so opposed to that? I think population-wise, there's more women than men. Of course, if you look at our government, it's mostly men, very few women. They don't get away with much. And there's radicals on the left and right there. But they oppose individual rights and equality. 182 Republicans voted against the ERA, equal rights amendment for women. What's so horrible about it? Equal rights. We don't like equal rights. We have white rights, and then we have everybody else's rights. They can't be equal. Storming the Capitol. Largely seen as a good thing by Republicans. That's anti-everything, anti-equality and individual rights. Donald Trump lost the election. Fine, we'll storm the Capitol. We'll put him back in the presidency. Anarchy, total anarchy. There was a time when people were hung for anarchy. Not so much lately. Didn't get away with a lot. Stick to the party line rather than do the right thing or get things done. Bills are being presented and voted down strictly along party lines. This is what the party says. This is our platform. You know, when they start running people for office, they have a platform. And Republican Party's anti a lot of stuff. Well, Roe versus Wade, they managed to get that overturned. So that's abortion rights for women. Food stamps, which are mostly used by women, try to take that away all across the country, state by state. People use food stamps because they're poor and they're hungry, not because they enjoy walking around with a packet full of food stamps. Anyway, and the Republican Party will do whatever it takes to maintain white superiority. They're open about it. If you ask one of them, I'm sure in the back room they'd tell you that. Gerrymandering. You may have a city that's Democratic and the Republicans always win it, or a state that's basically Democratic, because they gerrymander. Parts of the city will be cut up to where black votes don't count. They don't affect any change at all. It's called gerrymandering. It's just a way of screwing people out of whatever they want to vote for. It's just not going to happen. Austin, right down here, has that problem. Gerrymandering, major league. Texas is a Republican state, but Austin's a Democratic city. Anyway, just a little morning comparison between parties. Democrats are better. I mean, slightly better in a lot of ways, but they're authoritarian too. But they're not taking rights away from women. That's strictly the Republican purview. uh, Taking rights, voting rights away from everybody. That's Republicans. That's gerrymandering. Republicans do it, and Democrats do it, but not to the extent the Republicans are doing. They're both guilty of getting their do-nothings. It's a do-nothing Congress. Hail, hail the do-nothing Congress. They sit around, rather than getting business done that needs to be done, that they all agree on, they won't vote on it. They'd rather stymie everything and block it. By sticking to the party line, um, you block up legislation which might help everybody. But that's what's going on. Don't vote for that, even though you may agree with it. And maybe they all agree with it. They're not going to vote for it because the Democrats want it. So it's by default stymied somewhere. I don't even know why they bother to bring up a vote on something or write a bill on something and bring it up for a vote because they know what's going before it gets there. Anyway, we're falling into isms of the past. Fascism, Nazism, they're the same. We're falling into repeating the past, which was, if I remember, was not all that good where Nazis and fascists were concerned. There aren't any of them left, really. You can find some in Germany, and usually they try and throw them in jail. And we have neo-Nazis here, where it means that they've taken the Nazi party from there and brought it into the present, so they call it neo-Nazi. It's a very popular thing in a movie called The Blues Brothers. Very funny movie. Anyway, we've become so different that we can't help anybody. That we can't help anybody. Interesting. Follow the money. It's about money and power. This is no different than any other country, I guess, who's ever in charge wants to remain in charge. They want the money, they want the power to enact change and stop everybody else from, because their ideals are different than everybody else's. So they want to stop them from, not in a simple vote. They do a lot of arm twisting and anything they can to stop it. Sorry, guys, it's inevitable. eventually white people will be not in the majority anymore. Laws will be enacted to help everybody instead of the privileged few. You know, most Democrats like food stamps for women. Why? Because more Democrats have used food stamps in their past than Republicans. Why? Because, orbs again. Because Republicans have money. They don't need food stamps, and they don't think anybody else needs them either. If they don't need them, nobody needs them. More Democrats come from nowhere. And in coming up, they started out, they had to use food stamps to feed their family. Then they got better jobs and they moved out of that. But it's a lift up when you're not doing so well. I've always believed in that. Anybody that's human has a part of their belief that those who are in a gutter should be helped out of it. Those who are down should be helped out of it. Those who are hurting should be helped out of it. Everything's kind of going against that. It's you're hurting, okay, you're on your own. Because I, as a Republican, did not have to use food stamps. You don't need them. Democrats like food stamps as a stopgap measure to keep kids growing and living the way they should because they come from that. It's not a, I did not know that. I do now. But more Republicans, and those things are being taken away, not by Democrats, but by Republicans. Let's say there's some of that on both sides. They want to cut a deal with the national debt ceiling thing, where we can only spend so much money. That's going to be thrown in there. You'll see food stamps as a part of that, reducing food stamps for the poor. In order to get that passed, there's going to be a lot of compromise. That's going to be one of them. Poor people will have to do with what they've got. I'm sure they'll do fine, but it'd be nice to have a hand up. Here, can I help you? I don't know. I'd like to see a poll done about if someone were needed them, and this is something I've been dealing with lately. If someone needed medicine to live and could not get it because they're poor, would you give them medicine to allow them to live, go back to their families? Or would you rather they die and refuse the medicine? There's an underground movement going on. I'll tell you about it. You don't need to know about it, but there is, where medicine is now so high and so restrictive by its expense that people who need it, they can't get it. I think it's always been the case, but it's sort of an underground movement, and I happen to know about it, where people who have drugs that have been paid for, still sealed in the bottle, or under the table giving those to doctors, where they can dispense them to people who can't afford them, where they can live a better life. Nobody's getting paid. That's interesting. Instead of throwing medicine out, I mean, it's not old medicine. It's still good, and you don't need it anymore. You stop taking it, or don't need it for some reason, or maybe you've been prescribed something else, and you've got a couple of little bottles of something that could help somebody else, and without your name being used, without you knowing who they are. Certain doctors, certain hospitals, clinics are taking that medication and giving it to people who can't afford it, who can't breathe, or have other problems. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Isn't that a wonderful thing? And it's on strictly an individual basis. You'd have to ask around to find out who's doing it, but I happen to know about it. So you're not, and my first concern was you're defrauding the federal government who maybe subsidizes your medication where you can afford it to give to somebody else. No, it's medication that you're not taking anymore, that you moved from that medication to a lesser medication or a stronger medication, and that you've got your delivery of drugs. And you just haven't started using them yet, and all of a sudden they decide that this other thing over here will work better. That's that's as American as anything I've ever heard of. It's as democratic as anything I've ever heard of. It's pro women, it's pro children, it's pro everybody. Those are the kind of things I want to see voted on. How can we help the people who need it the most? Not how can we do a land grab for the rich people where they can have more land and control more things and suppress other people's opinions and ideas. Fascism, that's what that is. Helping those who need help. We're a democracy, or were. Now we're a series of oligarchies who give to people running for office, and they want more of those guys, so they give them the most money, so they run the most ads, and they win. It's just simple economics there. Guy has the most money and the most backing and political blah blah blah. I was noticing driving down the road the other day. There's some kind of little vote going on in town. I don't know, school something or something. I'm not sure what it is. And there's a lady there that has the big signs compared to everybody else who can afford a lot of signs. They have the big ones. They're well done. They're professionally done. What party do you think they belong to? Where'd they get the money to make signs? We've wondered about that. And the interesting thing is, yesterday I was looking. They don't tell what party they're in that they're running for an office. It's nowhere on the sign. They don't say GOP or Democratic, and they don't have the elephant and the whatever everybody has. What is it? It's a mule and an elephant. It's two dumb symbols. We're a dumb country. Anyway, they're running for an office. They put a big sign right by the road where no one can miss it. It's the biggest sign, and they don't tell what party they are. Either they're trying to have people vote against them because of their party, or they're afraid of the whiplash or backlash by declaring they're this. And then people start noticing the huge signs. I'm probably not the only person who's noticed the bigger signs of the guys that can buy billboards. You drive by that billboard every day, expensive thing, and your ideas are on there. They're not putting what party you're from on there. Not doing it because they're buying an election, which has always kind of made me angry. People with the most money usually win these things, and it's not Democrats usually, it's Republicans. They have the base. They have oligarchs. They have rich billionaires who contribute to where these people can run big national campaigns and get on planes and fly from city to city and do these big things and win elections because you know they're going to smile on them when they get in office and say, "Oh, thank you, Mr. Oligarch, Mr. Billionaire. Yeah, let me put some money your way. We'll we'll uh, we'll write some presidential decrees and have things go the way we want it to go, even though they're going to be repealed. They're going to be because they're not constitutional. For 2 years, you still got them. Very complicated. Boy, Fred, not a political guy. I sure have a lot of crap in my head today, don't I? It's just occurred to me. The inequality is sort of built in. Who you are, how you were raised, your family history, the people you hang out with. Uh, I didn't join a fraternity in college. I didn't have any money for that. I had to study day and night to get through. Guys in frat houses, and They have people help them with tests. They have tests already that they've seen the test. So they party a lot more. It's a lot more activity that's of the fun nature, usually involving a cylindrical aluminum thing where you punch a hole in it and you go, shh, usually involving one of those. A lot of that going on. But you have to have money to do that. And they came around asking me whether I wanted to join a fraternity. I don't have the money or the time. If I had the money, I'm not an elitist person. And that's what they are. That's what fraternities are. I'm better than you. I can afford to be here. I have a little shirt with a monogram on it. I drive the Porsche. I drive the Vet. I drive the expensive cars. My education is being paid for. My daddy didn't have enough money to send me to college or anybody else. He wanted us to go. I had to work my way through. I'm not complaining. I enjoyed the work. Making pizzas and pumping gas can be a lot of fun, and it was for me. Putting a water pump on an old Chevy, I enjoyed that. No complaints. It was a learning experience. If one got in, I learned like 20 years later, had a water pump go out on an old Ford and went and bought one, put it on myself. Learned how to do it in that garage when I was in college. I wouldn't have known that had I not taken that job. A lot to be said for work. It makes you who you are. Avoiding work makes you who you are too. Anyway, just doing a little comparison between what should be and what is. Oligarchies, fascism, totalitarianism, national elitism, white power. These are the things that we're running now. I don't think my family was ever on food stamps. They didn't have food stamps when I was a kid. But I sure want someone who can't feed their kids to be able to buy them something. Have some good shoes on their feet, whatever. Everybody kind of deserves that, but then people say that's socialism. There's a little bit of socialism in every thing, and in our country we have a lot of it. We do tend to give a lot of stuff away. We've been taking a lot of it back, though, lately. And these people will have to find some other way to make it. Anyway, fascism, republicanism. Oop, another orbs going crazy. They're agreeing with me. Maybe I'll do a video about orbs. I'm not sure. I haven't investigated it. I'm told all the time they're children. But I don't know for sure. Quite helpful in doing a video, though. You notice I don't get all this stuff myself. I'm sitting here and all of a sudden someone says something and I repeat it. It always seems to fit just perfectly in, dovetails in nicely. And I'm not that smart. I listen well. And when people who are past talk, I tend to listen. Spiritualism, that's what I'm about. And perhaps saying things about fascism and Republicans is not being very spiritual. I'm going to have to agree with that. But I don't think anybody's saying it. So I thought this morning I would do a comparison. You know, I don't do a lot of political stuff. Politics is just the dumbest thing there is. We may have to have a government, but surely we deserve better than what we've had the last period of time. People would rather vote against something than for something. Okay, there's a limited amount of money. But we tend to build bridges that don't go anywhere. We tend to support stuff that doesn't make any sense. And that money might be better spent helping the poor. Enough of my yapping. Anyway, not very spiritual. It's not a very spiritual video, but I don't think anybody's talking about the comparison between what's going on now and what went on in the past, that we're repeating ourselves. President Nixon, all the president's men, a bunch of them went to jail. He had to resign. It's the same thing. What was that in '75 or something? It's not been that long, and it repeated itself. Why? Because these people who are always looking, they're always looking for an advantage. They huddle in little rooms. Well, if we do this and we can do that, and then we can control that. That's what it's about: money and control and power. And they're always looking for an angle or for a way they can get in the door and screw something up. Some of it's legal, some of it's not legal. Supreme Court's not been all that legal lately either. We're, we're drowning in wrongness. Clarence Thomas been taking money for years from this billionaire, taking vacations. He bought a piece of property from him. He didn't disclose any of it. And wouldn't you think he would? Because now there's an allegation of impropriety. Had he disclosed it, no one would have probably said much. In fact, he kept it hidden. That's the problem. It may not be illegal at all. It certainly is wrong. No fear, no regret, no anger. Thanks for watching. If you didn't like any of this, don't send me an email because I don't really care. And this is not for entertainment purposes. This is for something, I don't know what else. No fear, no regret, no anger. Till some other time later, I'll talk to you then. Bye.